Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Well, if you are watching this video, you probably already know that InnoGames just dropped kind of a bomb in terms of the upcoming changes. And there's going to be quite a few changes that they're planning to make for the tournaments. So yeah, the changes are coming to beta, and depending on how it goes, it will go live afterwards, so we'll see about that. But in the meantime, there's some discussion going on about that on Beta US and other forums. So yeah, I looked at a lot of comments, and instead of replying to like a couple of dozens of them, I figured I'll just make a video of my initial reaction to how things are proposed and what people think about that. And yeah, we don't have a lot of, we have some information, presumably, we don't have a lot. So we will be engaging in wild speculations here, and why not? Let's just do it. So I'll briefly reiterate what the changes are. Again, there's not going to be a lot of video in this, video. It's more of a podcast kind of thing, so I'm going to be going through the changes as outlined on the forum, point a couple of things in the behind the scenes video, and then we'll try to go for some of the comments on the forums. Yeah, let's see what what I'm thinking about that. So, as you can see on the screen now, that was just a post on upcoming tournament changes, which are coming July 14th to beta, and there are quite a few things that are outlined here. So let's just go one by one quickly. So a few tournament encounters per province. So basically what they're going to do is, instead of the 4 encounters per each province as we have today, they're going to be accumulating or consolidating them into just one encounter and reducing a few number of clicks here and there as well. But naturally, again, to keep things roughly the same, and we'll talk about this a bit later, these encounters are going to be quite a bit bigger in terms of the squad sizes fielded. Now, if that would be a change in itself, just like that, I would be all over this. That would be an amazing thing, because I think I mentioned this before a few times, just clicking and clicking and clicking in every tournament, if you're going for any meaningful number of provinces, are just painful. And there's really no reason to do that, because if you literally do what they propose to do here, as in do 4 times the sizes per encounter, and then just do 1 encounter per province, as long as you do, again, a meaningful number of provinces, that actually is a wash. You will get roughly the same amount of losses. You will get, well, it would cost you roughly the same in aggregate, except it will take a lot less time and a lot less clicking. So that would be an amazing change as far as I'm concerned. Again, we'll get to some comments later, because there are some different opinions on that. But okay, so unfortunately, not all the things are kept the same. And yeah, there's small font here under further adjustments. So yeah, there are more changes are coming. Now, so yeah, they just mentioned, in addition to visual changes, they made changes to how the tournaments are balanced. Yeah, that might be a big thing. So one thing with the goals, they mentioned a fair tournament for all, easy entry to tournaments, especially for new players. Even though I'm not sure that was really a big deal, but hey, what do I know? And providing additional challenge to veterans, which sounds good on paper. Again, I personally prefer harder things to do that will take less time. Again, if we can compress the same encounters, the same difficulty, or even harder, into a smaller envelope, that would be a good thing. Again, obviously keeping the rewards roughly equivalent, so that would be a good thing. So okay, so they're going to rework the costs in tournament, how they would calculate. So up until now, as you all probably know, that was all about regular squad size, and that's the stuff that you research as part of your research tree. And there were a lot of mandatory squad size upgrades, and there were some optional ones. And indeed, that was for quite a while a known fact that, yeah, these optional squad size upgrades, even though they're, well, it would be easy to think that spending extra resources, KPs and whatnot, or optional squad size upgrades would benefit you, and it sort of does, as they allude to as far as map encounters are concerned. For tournament fighting, that was a pure negative. And the reason being is basically, well, your relative losses would still be the same in terms of percentages in each encounter. Your absolute losses would be higher with bigger squad size. And unfortunately, you train not full squads, you train number of units, and that means with bigger squad sizes, you will train less of them per unit of time. That means this amount of losses would be harder to replenish. So yeah, okay, I get that. As one of the, even for, I probably have one of the smallest possible squad sizes. I think I only research just one, the very first optional squad size upgrade. So it's basically the smallest you can get. I mean, I get that. Yeah, that's not really fair for, I'd probably be ticked off if I research quite a few of those optional squad size upgrades and then figure out that they would actually be detrimental to my tournament progress. All right. Okay, but how they're going to do it? Well, they are planning to completely get rid of squad size upgrades as being a measure of squad sizes in the tournament. Well, that's kind of a big change. I'm not sure how relevant squad sizes would be now. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But what they are saying that now the costs, I assume in terms of both troops and goods, would be pinned to things like, where do we have it? To progression factors that involve city development and researches in general. All right, I think you may have heard about something like that previously. Yeah, that's called the SPIRE formula. And the reason why I think it's actually very similar, I mean, outside of all the other things, if you look at the behind the scenes video, again, I'm not going to be showing you the whole video, even parts of that. You can go watch it yourself, but there's a screenshot that actually points pretty much directly to that. Look at that, difficulty adjustments, encounters, battle, and negotiation. So previously, that's the previous setup. The squad size is fully determined by, well, that's how they display the squad size, the regular squad size upgrades. Not upgrades, but the total squad size. All right, and what are they planning to do in the new one? Look at this one. Squad size upgrades do not matter. Instead, we have these 4 items, which look like something related to ancient wonders, something which is related to research, something which is related to expansions, and something which is drawn as goods with, I only assume, is looking as boosts. Wait, I think I have seen it somewhere, like here. So look at these parameters. Unlock mandatory research tech items, total number of ancient wonder levels, premium expansions, non-premium expansions, and maximum unlocked boost percentage for regular goods, which all gets plugged into a formula for Spire squad size. That sounds very suspicious. So yeah, I'd be, in fact, very surprised that there would be different underlying factors for this formula. They look exactly the same. Now, the actual coefficients and maybe even the functional form might be different. That we don't know, we'll have to see. But in all fairness, I actually think that probably would be somewhat similar. At least again in the functional terms. Okay, all right, again we'll talk about this a bit more than looking at the comments. Catering. All right, again without reading the whole paragraph here, what they're planning to do is reduce costs of catering to make it more on par with fighting, or make it more viable as a strategy of doing tournaments. And what they're doing is we will roughly halve the costs of it. Okay, cool. And again, just to be clear, as they're saying, that's based on the aggregates for 4 smaller into 1 bigger one, so that costs in the catering window will still be higher, probably by a factor of 2, because now we're looking at 4 times the size for encounters. Again, that's neither here nor there. On one hand, well, the statement that the costs are going to be halved actually tells you really very little, given the fact that our troop costs, which presumably this will be directly related to, are going to be completely reworked. So at that point in time, I have no idea what my squad sizes are going to look like for any tournament. And as such, the half of what, I have no idea. So the costs, what are not relevant anymore, are going to be halved. I don't know about that. And the other thing is, even if we assume that they are somehow comparable to what the catering costs used to be in the current live tournament setup, that's really, for going deep into a tournament, not nearly enough. I mean, I'll bring some fairly extreme example, but just to illustrate the point. And again, I didn't verify those numbers, so I'll take it for what it is. I believe a player that some of you may know, one of the players did 30,000 tournament run, which is an amazing result, I must say. And he calculated how much would that be costing him if he had to pay the full freight all the way just by catering. And again, as I said, I didn't verify the number, but it doesn't sound sounds very plausible. So he got about like 400 million in terms of, I assume aggregate regular goods, or 1 or 2 years even with pretty decent production capabilities. Yeah, I think we can all say that that's not really realistic. And I might add that halving that, those costs, okay, so now you may take half year to 1 year for one tournament run like that. Yeah, that's not really realistic. I mean, obviously, that's a very extreme example of that. But we know that that's something which is doable using fighting. It has been actually done. While the catering strategy, such as this, even with the updated half the numbers, would still be entirely not viable. So there's that. But realistically, it's hard to assess that before we know how this whole difficulty adjustment plays out. And then, of course, they plan to reshuffle the goods that required. And I mean, we already have regular goods as well as orcs. So now they're throwing in coins, supplies, and mana. Again, well, coins and supplies, you used to have them in early chapters, so I don't know if that's still the case as they're going away when you progress, but I assume not. Mana is definitely new. Orcs have been there already. Again, hard to say, depending on how the numbers are going to play out. And we'll see a little bit more about this in the comments. So in mana, for me personally, at the end game and having some pretty powerful sets, that's not really, I don't see mana as being a valuable resource outside of some, well, outside some research requirements for chapters when they are around. Apart from that, that's not really constrained by all means, so it's a kind of throwaway resource. But realistically, I'm probably not the best person to provide opinion on that at that point in time, because right now my tournaments, well, not just right now, for a long time, I haven't done any catering whatsoever, just pure fighting, so I haven't spent any goods there, with just a few exceptions. Some time ago, then I would still lose just a couple of encounters in some tournaments. So there's that. We'll see about that. But yeah, if coins and supplies will come into play as well, given that they're already required in the Spire, that might put additional strain there, but it's hard to say if it's going to be hard or not. Don't know. So that change, I'd say neither here nor there at that point in time. Okay, battle difficulties. Okay, so that's kind of biggie, I think. So they say they want to make battles significantly easier at first and then become progressively harder the higher province number gets, which is not exactly how it used to work. So, and here are some nifty pictures that they put in there in terms of the current setup, and they show that, okay, right now all the 1 stars are the same difficulty. Again, that's not entirely true because 1 to 9 are easier than the others, but okay, let's forget about those for now. And then 2 stars, 3 stars, and so on and so forth. In terms of the stars, the difficulty progresses, which is true because you get the same your own squad at a particular province. You get higher and higher enemy squad sizes as long as you progress in stars. Having said that, I do not necessarily agree that, well, with colorization of this picture, because while your percentage losses or percentage sort of difficulty stays the same, as in if you're losing, if you're going to lose about, let's say, 20% of your troops fighting on average, fighting 1 star 10th province, that's the same 20% that you're going to lose in, again, expected on average in province number 20, 40, 50, or 100, as long as it's 1 star. That's not to say, in my opinion, that they have the same difficulty. Well, I mean, the difficulty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess, but you would lose in this 20% a lot more if you're fighting province number 100 than you're fighting province number 10, unless of course you have entirely 0 losses, which does happen, but it's not exactly happening all the time. All right, and as we said before, the previous, yeah, like what you're producing is not squads, so the relative losses are nice, that you keep them constant in the same tier, but you have to replenish your troops based on the number of losses, the actual number of units, and that grows with number of provinces, so that's not entirely accurate. And of course, that's true that it grows with province. So now, what it seems that they're planning to do is they do both. So the difficulty grows with number of star tiers, the same as before. I mean, the same principle as before, but it also grows as you go deeper into the number of provinces, even in the same star tier. Okay, so and as I said, that's kind of gets you a double whammy. Not only you get higher losses in absolute terms, which you would do in the current setup, but you also will have higher percentage losses the further you go. So yeah, you get a double whammy exactly. So again, that depends on how they balance that. Right now, I mean, these colorized maps are not entirely convincing. So the only thing you can see that, yeah, it probably incentivizes you to go more in terms of the star tiers. So you probably want to go, let's say, 10 provinces to 6 star, rather than going 30 provinces to 1 or 2 stars and almost nothing for, let's say, 6 star, at least as far as points are concerned. Again, I'm not sure I personally would want to do that, because if they keep the setup of rewards for each province and star type the same as it is currently, then there's a lot of junky encounters here that really there's no big reason to go for. I mean, I personally go deep into two star provinces, so I have to go 1 star, not because I want to, but because I have to get to 2 star for them. 2 star, obviously I'm picking up all the KPs there. Then I see no reason to go as deep for 3 and 4 star provinces, unless I'm fully committed to go deep or somewhat deep into 5 star, where I pick more KPs, because I think the rewards for 3 and 4 stars, and never mind 6 star, I really have no idea why would anyone, I mean, outside of purely ranking points for tournaments, why would anyone would go deep into 6 star? It's expensive as it is, even today, and the rewards are, I'm sorry, like, yeah, that's just ridiculous. So no. But right now, you kind of incentivized to go there. Well, at least earlier on. Again, I'm not sure like that makes a big difference in terms of going up to whatever 7, 8, 9 or something. But yeah, so going more flat rather than going deep, which means you're collecting basically a lot of junky rewards from these random star provinces, instead of going for the stuff what actually you want to, which is probably KPs for a lot of people. Again, that's not the only things what you get there, but that's, I mean, outside of ranking, that's probably the main reason to go deep in tournaments. I mean, once you hit in the 10 chests requirements, which is a good thing in itself. So yeah, I can't say I am entirely convinced. Again, we'll see how that looks like, but the colorizing doesn't look very promising. And again, for people who would go to beyond 20, at least in 1 and 2 stars, that looks quite a bit harder than it is today. And conspicuously, there's nothing is even beyond 22. So I mean, I'm not that big of a tournament player as some people, but I can go to, let's say, province 50 as you may have seen in my tutorials, for 1 and 2 stars, and like looking at this progression, yeah, that may look pretty difficult, and that's definitely not as much as some people can go. So there's that. Again, it sounds like they are making again, I don't know how they calculated it, but 5,000 points seems to be kind of cutoff. So hitting less than 5,000 is supposed to be easier in the new setup. Hitting more than 5,000 is supposed to be harder. I happen to habitually be right up on this cusp, so Technically speaking, what they say supposed to work out as a wash to me. However, that is again not entirely true, because there are many different ways how you can hit 5,000 points. And what they are showing here is most likely that, hey, if you were going flat 6-star provinces, or at least close to that, I don't know how many of the provinces what that would take for 5,000 points, but basically if you go flat, whatever is number of provinces to 6-star, and you get 5,000 points to that, in the new system you will get it roughly the same way, as in the same amount of losses probably, or something like that. Even that part is questionable, because again, considering that everything is pinned to your number of parameters like ancient wonder levels and things like that, you really can't make statements like that, because two different players hitting exactly the same tournament setup may have very different losses and setup, simply because they have very different number of expansions, very different number of ancient wonder levels and whatnot. So again, going back to my point, but if I'm hitting 5,000 points, let's say by going very deep in 1- and 2-star provinces, and not at all into let's say 3, 4, 5, and 6, I strongly suspect, again looking at this just color maps, that it will actually be substantially more difficult to hit the same rewards, let's put like that. Let's forget about the points, because that's not probably the whole reason why you're doing this 5,000 points, but hitting the same rewards would be substantially more difficult than that. Yeah, if you're doing flat to 6, then good for you, I guess. That's not how I play, that's not how a lot of people play tournaments, especially later game. All right, and then they say, yeah, we make the earliest encounters easier than before and ever. Yeah, again, depends what you count as earliest. So wherever you count 6-star first province as early, or wherever you count 20 province in 1-star. So there's that. And yeah, so for those who can and do hundreds of provinces within a week, I'm pretty sure even like the top tournament players do not do hundreds of provinces within a week. That's just they just don't have those. But okay, that's nitpicking here. All right, tournament bonus chests. Okay, so we all know and love our regular 10 chests. That's kind of meme now. 10 chests, everything. All right, so what they're planning to do is to actually add 9 more extra chests on top of that. So you need to do more as a fellowship to get those rewards, and each bonus chest contains 1 roll restoration as well as 1 10 AWKP. I'm actually good with this change. I think that's a good thing. Some people may consider that that's kind of not worth it. It's not a great rewards for some. These are some pretty serious results. So like 10 chests, that's 40,000 points for a fellowship. So certainly can be done. Certainly more can be done. Certainly a lot more can be done, but it's not easy. Let's be real here. Well, some very few fellowships can do that. There's a whole bunch of fellowships that don't even reach that. So generally, I don't like hard caps in terms of the rewards. It's always good to have something that you can strive for. And in this particular case, again, realistically, most people are not playing. Again, for 10 chests, yeah, some people trying to strictly hit 10th chest. Because there's a good goodies in there, that's true. There are a lot of fellowship that, again, they can hit even like, let's say, I don't know, 100,000 points. Again, not very common, but and today they're getting exactly nothing for that. They don't do it because they want to hit 100k, let's say. It just so happens that they have a lot of players that hit big numbers because presumably they want to get the individual rewards right now. So here, might as well pick up something along the way and perhaps incentivize just a little bit. You know, if you're a few points short, somebody hit a little bit more. But yeah, it's right now it's kind of freebie. Again, if nothing else is being rebalanced by itself, this change, I think that's strictly positive. So nothing is taken away from how it used to be. But some people sometimes can get maybe slightly, but more than that. So yeah, that's cool. And there's that. So that's the changes that are coming up. And again, they're planning to do some additional, I guess that's more UI changes, like making it possible to skip time using boosters or diamonds right in the window. That's not coming right away. So we'll see how that works. Again, I don't see that like as a big deal. I mean, it's actually nice because the boosting from the tournament window, something that we have seen in mobile version, at least to a certain extent, and that's actually useful. Not for me right now because I have 0 cooldown, but sometime before that, that would be actually quite useful, and especially just to see how long each province is still in the cooldown. So yeah, so again, a couple of things that by themselves, like making 1 out of 4 encounter and extra chests, would be great by themselves. That would be a very positive change for me. Some rework of catering, again, the way they are doing it right now. Again, if other things would be left intact, would probably be a positive. Again, for me, I wouldn't care either way, but I could see how it might be a good thing. Oh yeah, there are a couple of things what in the both battle and catering I forgot to mention, which actually are a big deal. So randomization, that is actually might even be a bigger deal than the difficulty calculations. We'll see. So no longer, at least the way it's currently described, each tournament will have a specific set of goods and enemy lineups that would kind of be cast in stone, more or less. I mean, today it's cast in stone in the way that there's a certain pool that you can pick from, not you can pick from, the game can pick from for a particular tournament. It's limited and you kind of know what these are. You don't know for each individual encounter, but in aggregate you know exactly what you're going to get. Like if it's a planks tournament, you know you're going to need planks if you're catering, or what's planks? Yeah, or silk, and what else we have there? Gems. And you know which matchups are going to be there, which troops you need to train for that, at least in aggregate again. So now what they're saying in terms of the goods, not only they add additional goods here, but it's going to be more random in terms of they can require all kinds of goods at any time, I assume. And the same applies to troops. The same, well, at least they say it. As an added bonus supplement, you'll be able to use more of your own units over the course of the tournament instead of using only a few select types in a given week. Okay, hold on there. That's a big change. And again, it's hard to assess depending on how it's going to be implemented, but one place where we can already see it implemented exactly like that, and again, you will see a lot of parallels here, is the Spire. While there could maybe some dependencies in terms of actual troops fielded or even goods required, if they're even there, which right now I don't see any reasons to believe, they're very subtle, and basically you can treat Spire, both negotiation costs and enemy lineups, as pretty random, or at least random as in non-specific, let's say, to a tournament week. And that's the reason why you generally, at least I generally, do not put any boosts, let's say, specific for the Spire, because, well, unless you just put a very balanced lineup out there, well, you don't know what's going to come and what you're going to use. So you put the boosts out there specific to the tournament week, because that's, well, again, in aggregate, you know what to expect there. All right, and if exactly the same or similar setup will be used for tournaments, all of a sudden you have both Spire and tournaments where you can have just about any good appearing at any moment, as well as any, probably not necessarily any troop combination, but at least troop combinations that previously would only appear in any particular week, as in tournament week. And all of a sudden that changes things quite a bit, not just in terms of training the troops. You can't train just specialized troops for a particular tournament anymore. You'll have to basically do the average as the same for goods. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Depends. It's a big change. Where it really makes a big difference is, again, the boosts, because, well, you may have enough troops of any type, and again, I can talk about this later. That's not always the case, again, as for instance, for me in the end game, right now I don't go dry on any particular troop, not even close, in any tournament week. So for me, I mean, any week I'm ready to fight actually any tournament week, that wouldn't be a problem. That wasn't always the case, definitely not. And the same with goods. Again, if you're a later game, probably, again, doesn't necessarily connect with end game per se, but you have significant stockpiles of all kinds of goods, then it doesn't really matter which one shows up or is required more than the other, like you have them. For earlier game, that definitely was not the case for me. I couldn't just field any kind of tournament at any time because I didn't have proper troops and I didn't have proper goods in sufficient amounts. Maybe if you just switch to kind of like keeping it balanced at all times, that would work out. I have my doubts, but one thing where it really is gonna suck is the efficiency of temporary damage boosters like well, ELR or MMMs, and actually even health boosts, because right now I know that, hey, Scrolls tournament is coming, that's gonna suck, that's gonna suck bad. I'd better put some better health boosters out there, and that would be a good value. If today somebody will tell me, hey, you know, you can have a few encounters here that are kind of from Scroll, that would suck, some from coming from, I don't know, from Silk, that would be amazing, some from something else, then yeah, kind of basically each tournament becomes roughly the same. And certainly in the slightly mid to late game, they would all be the same, because it sounds like the only difference would be the relic types that you're getting out of that. And yeah, well, in the very early game, you want to push for your boost relics. In the later game, like, who cares? Like, that's not what you're playing for. You're getting other goodies from the tournament, and they're all the same in every tournament. And if the troops and goods required would be kind of the same, then yeah, you will be playing the same tournament again and again and again every single week, instead of once every 9 weeks. So yeah, not quite big on that change, to say the least. There are other pitfalls to that setup in general. But again, we'll see how that will actually get implemented. So far, I'm yeah, so as I said, there are a couple of things that I liked really by themselves. Again, 4-to-1 and extra chests for the fellowships. Reduction of catering costs in general, again, I support. Again, I don't use it, but I see why it could be a good thing in general. Even addressing the optional squad size upgrades, which I would actually be the person who would be most impacted, or one of the people who would be most impacted, because mine is probably as low as it can be. I kind of get it. Okay, that's fair, I suppose, especially for people who started early and couldn't, especially considering you can't revert these research items once you take them. So okay, so one way to handle that, one way or another, would be okay with me. That's not exactly what they did, because, well, it's, yeah, now it's not, there's no difference, presumably, with taking or not taking squad size upgrades as far as squad size in tournament is concerned. That brings with it, well, the proposed changes, a whole bunch of other changes which I do not necessarily see as positive. And yeah, as I said, so that basically the adjustments in difficulty in terms of the ramp up and the initial pinpoint, because again, like a lot of people tend to focus on this ramp up, but you don't even know, or at least I don't even know, like what the initial point is going to be. And remember, it's going to be different for every player now, because every player will have different number of expansions or ancient wonder levels and so on and so forth. So yeah, we'll see. So I think it actually went quite a bit longer than I originally thought, just to look at the announcement itself. So I think I'll make a cut here and probably take a look at some of the comments on the forums in a separate video. So see you then.